cars, start your engines!
Yellow's out. Man, we just about outran him. And he busted her.
What's up, everybody? It is Tuesday, July 25th. We're back in the studio for episode number 45. I had planned to try to get this episode in a little earlier, but I was gonna suggest we do it Saturday before we headed to the racetrack, but I had a tire issue that I had to get fixed, and by the time we got everything ready, we had less than an hour before we had to be at the track for the evening. So we're here. It's Tuesday in the middle of the week. It's been a long week already, so I'm ready for the weekend. It's a hot one this week, all week.
It is.
But hopefully that means it'll cool down for us before our next race a little bit.
I hope so.
Because I could not imagine racing in 95-degree weather, sitting inside a hot race car in a fire suit. But
no.
I'm not in shape for that. There are people that are, but not me. Anyway, green flag is out. We're ready to roll 3 wide with DJG. Dakota, how are we doing?
We are doing very close to episode 50. That's going to be a big deal. Other than that, just working as I normally do. I think we had a pretty good weekend at Mount Lawn.
I'd say we did.
So I ended up finishing 12th with a flat tire. You did really well. I think probably the best you've ever looked.
Not even a question. It is by far.
Dad didn't have a great car. Still managed to come home 14th, so all three of us got top 15 finishes. So not too much to complain there. Other than that, just glad to be back. Yeah, I think that's it. How about you?
Been doing all right. I could not sleep the night after the races. Saturday night, I did not sleep at all. And I didn't really feel like it was because I was super excited, but I guess I must have been.
Yeah.
I felt very mellow, but I think inside I was just like, holy crap.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because you did win your first heat race.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
So, yeah, like Dakota said, pretty good weekend. I ran my fastest lap in our first practice by almost 0.3 of a second. Slowed down a little in qualifying, which is fine. It happens. But it's funny, I literally was sitting in staging before going out to my first practice. And normally I just kind of am sitting there, just minding my business. And I was sitting there Saturday, and I was like, I'm going to listen. There was a couple of guys out on the track that I know are fast. I'm going to listen to where they let off the throttle on the backstretch going into the short turn, because I think that's what causes me the most trouble. Mm-hmm. I'm always sliding around, and I always wonder how these guys carry so much speed through the corner, and then, they roll off the corner very well. Because I don't think it's so much corner entry as long as you can drive off the corner and keep up with somebody, right? Because my big thing is, I always felt like I was gaining on people, but that's because I drove it so hard into the corner. Well, then I would instantly lose them because I'm sliding all over the place. So I was just listening to where guys were lifting on the backstretch. I'm like, they're lifting way before I even think about it. So then I pull out on the track, and I tell myself I'm going to try and replicate what I just listened to. Mm-hmm. Solely listened to. And picked up 0.3 of a second. And I felt like I went way slower. Funny how that works. Started 4th out of 7th in my heat race, right behind your dad. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I knew going out to the heat race that the car that was on the pole was relatively slow. I wasn't too sure about the car to my inside, so I was just going to hope to God your dad and I had this guy cleared before we went into the short turn, because I felt like the guy to my inside probably would have ran him over. But your dad and I had passed the guy before we got out of the dog leg, right. And so it was just us two up front. And I finally got around your dad. I think it was lap 3 maybe, mm-hmm. and led the rest of the race. It's so nerve-wracking because when you're in front, you have no idea where anybody behind you is. If they're not like to your inside or directly to your outside, you don't hear them. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, where's everybody at? And I kept waiting going into the short turn. I'm like, someone's just going to freaking run into me and spin me out to go for the win in this heat race. And I was waiting for it. And it never came. So I was like, I must have had a somewhat of a lead,
Yeah.
But no, it felt really good. I did realize that I need to learn how to take off my equipment and get out of the car a little faster because I felt like I sat in the car in victory lane taking all my shit off for quite a minute. I wish I would have gotten some more pictures because the only picture I got was what the guy, the staff, the Matlon staff member took, or the volunteer, whatever. Whatever he took, I didn't get any on any personal devices, so I still don't have that picture, which is fine, I guess, but it would have been nice to have. I also kind of wish I would have gotten one by myself. I didn't, which is no big deal. I don't care. I'm glad everybody got in the picture with me. I wish you guys would have all came and got in the picture with me too. But it all kind of happens really fast whenever it's because you're like, I got to hurry up and get this done and get out of the way for the next person.
Right.
But no, I was very pumped about it. And then I went out in the feature. I started, I don't know if it was 19th or 17th or something like that, but ended up finishing 12th. I felt like I drove rather aggressively. I was bumping people, moving people out of my way. You looked really, really good. I felt really comfortable driving the car this weekend, simply just by backing up my corner entry.
Yep.
So, no, it was nice. Monday was Monday. Today sucked. Work was awful. I was mad all day. It just was not a good day. So I'm hoping the rest of the week seems a little better. I was trying to lighten my mood a little bit on the way over here, just jamming out to some music and driving on the back roads. So, no, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be talking about racing. We had a good discussion out in the living room before we came into the studio about some possible ideas in the future. That's going to be a big, long process of lots of planning and stuff moving forward. So I don't think it's going to be anything super
in the
soon.
Near future.
Yeah, but I think if we get enough heads together and get some good ideas going, it'll be bright for us.
Yep.
So anyway, I guess we can go ahead and get into our show notes. I'll go ahead and kick us off if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
First off, we have our IndyCar race results. They were in the streets of Toronto on July 16th, where Christian Lundgaard scored his first career NTT IndyCar Series victory. With Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan Racing, Alex Palou, Colton Herta, Scott Dixon, and Joseph Newgarden rounded out the top five. They then traveled to Iowa Speedway this last weekend for the only doubleheader weekend of the season. Wait, did they race 2 days in a row?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I was confused. The only doubleheader weekend of the season prior to the weekend, Meyer Shank Racing announced that Connor Daly would be replacing Simon Pagenaud, as he had not yet been cleared to race. Once in Iowa, Joseph Newgarden, who led 129 of 250 laps of the race, scored his third win of the season, followed by Scott McLaughlin, Pato O'Ward, Marcus Ericsson, and Will Power. On Sunday, Joseph was able to sweep the weekend, grabbing his fourth win after leading 212 of 250 laps. Will Power finished second, followed by Alex Palou, Felix Rosenquist, and Scott McLaughlin. Following the Iowa doubleheader, Alex Palou leads the points standing with 477, Newgarden in second with 397, Scott Dixon with 357 in third, and Marcus Ericsson 330 in fourth. Rounding out the top five, you have Scott McLaughlin with 329. The IndyCar Series will next travel to the streets of Nashville for round 13 of the 2023 season. This will be on August 6th. You can catch the action on NBC with the field scheduled to take the green at 12 p.m.
I'm excited for this race.
I am too. We hyped it up a lot. Was it last year when they did it?
Yeah.
And I didn't really watch it, so I think I'm going to try and watch it this year. I don't know. I like that they're kind of venturing into street courses. I think it's more fitting for IndyCar than NASCAR, but the NASCAR one, I think a NASCAR street race without rain would be better than a NASCAR street race with rain. Now, I might be proved wrong later in the future, so don't hold me to that. But
right.
I don't know. I personally am not a big road course, street course guy. I like turning left.
Yeah, which I'm the same way.
As boring as some people may think that is. Now, am I getting a little more into the road course aspect of it? Yes, because I don't know. It's just racing. If there's ever maybe an IMSA race or something on when I don't have anything else to watch, I'll tune in and just kind of watch what goes on. I don't ever see myself racing in a road course unless it's in a go-kart. But I don't know. It's racing, so I'll watch it.
Yeah, agreed. We're going to move back to last week, I should say, New Hampshire. So last week in the Xfinity and Cup Series hit the track in New Hampshire. where John Hunter Nemechek grabbed the win in the Xfinity Series over Chandler Smith. Austin Hill, Daniel Hemrick, and Sammy Smith closed out the top 5. The biggest moment of this race came at lap 71 as the field came back to a restart. The front rows had stacked up, leading to a multi-car crash in the middle of the field. Over in the Cup Series, which had originally been scheduled for Sunday, it was pushed back to Monday afternoon due to weather in the area. Martin Truex Jr., who seems to always be dominant on Mondays, led 254 to 301 laps, scoring his 3rd win of the season over Joey Logano. Kyle Larson, Kevin Harvick, and Brad Keselowski rounded out the top 5.
Real quick, not to change the subject, but I do want to go back to a little bit of Outlaw news. Shout out to Brandon Mefford, who got behind the wheel of a race car for the first time in 5 years. Looked really good for not being in a seat for that long. Also, shout out to Keegan Anderson for giving him the opportunity to drive his car. It's nice to see Brandon at the track. I got to talk to him and his brother Chris, and Brandon has a big history at Mount Lawn. He's raced there for a long time, and so it was nice to see him back. He seemed happy, minus the race car gremlins that you have. But no, he looked like he had a lot of fun. And I told him, I said, I think you might have been my good luck charm. I'm going to need you to come back to the track more. He said he's going to have to show his face a little more. And I also want to give a quick shout out to Kyle Frame for he did comment on my post, said good job. So that means a lot coming from, Brandon also said good job, but someone who races full time and is really, really good at it.
Yeah.
It's reassuring to me that he took time out of his day to say that. Also, I made myself look stupid because I pointed out in the comment section that I wore his shirt as a good luck charm. So that was going to be my race day.
Good luck charm.
Yeah, tradition. But I pointed out that I wore his shirt when he definitely saw it in the picture. So whatever. But
I read the comments and I thought it was funny. No, I agree. I think it was really cool to see Mefford back at the track. I hope that's going to happen more often. And then, as always, shout out Kyle Frame. He's just an awesome guy. So, yeah, I agree.
It was funny because Brandon, I went over and talked to him. He's like, I'll try to watch out for you and give you some pointers if I can. And then I go out and run my best lap. And I was like, all right.
Right.
But, yeah. Anyway, we can move back on to other racing things. We're going to go to the dirt side for a minute. The Eldora Kings Royal. Eldora is just a phenomenal track. I know a lot of people were kind of complaining about the condition of the track. There have been a lot of people saying that some of these big races should be moved to other tracks just because the conditions of the track provide better racing. But I think, I don't know if I can't say I've never seen a bad race at Eldora. One of the late model races we went to,
the most recent one,
it was good for about 20 laps, and then it turned into a one-lane racetrack. That kind of sucked. But most of the time, just watching the amount of speed that these cars can carry around this track is absolutely mind-blowing. But anyway, the weekend began with the inaugural and possibly the last Eldora Million, where Logan Schuchart dominated the 50-lap feature, becoming a millionaire. Carson Macedo, Brad Sweet, David Gravel, and Rico Abreu close out the top 5. On Friday night, Macedo scored the win, followed by Brad Sweet, Giovanni Scelzi, Rico Abreu, and David Gravel. All the action led to the 40th running of the Kings Royal, where Donnie Schatz was crowned the king. Brent Marks crossed the line in second, followed by David Gravel, Sheldon Haudenschild, and Kyle Larson. Several big-name drivers, such as Brad Sweet, missed the main feature, leading many to criticize the format of the weekend.
Yeah.
Also, there have been a lot, I've noticed more in the dirt world, of teams and drivers going separate ways.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost daily that I feel like I see a post. It's like, the team wanted to go in a different direction. I'm no longer the driver of this car. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah. I know there's been a conversation had about that. I thought about touching base on it this episode, but I also just didn't look too far into it. I think it would be an interesting topic next time if I can get some more information. But it's also kind of hard to report on because, I mean, we know the basics. They left. They split ways, right?
Right, but
it's
we don't know any of the details.
Right.
We'll never know any of the details.
We don't have any backstory to that unless a driver speaks out.
And it's typically just the team and I decided to part ways. I'm thankful for the opportunity. I will keep you all updated with my plans. That's literally the basis of every post.
Every breakup.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all you get. So it's like, how much can we really talk on? But it is interesting. I think I've seen 3 in the last like week or 2.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. It is interesting.
So, going back to Eldora things, Tyler Courtney was injured in a crash during the night before, which has sidelined him from this year's event, as well as many future races. Clausen Marshall Racing has since announced that Anthony Macri and Corey Day will replace Courtney until he is cleared to return. The team announced that Macri will run the All-Star Circuit of Champions and the World of Outlaw schedule, which will include the Knoxville Nationals. Day will run the high-limit portion of the schedule. Team owner Tim Clausen took to social media saying the relationship between Tyler Courtney, our family, and our racing team is extremely important. He is not just our driver, he is family. It is a testament to our team, led by Jake Argo and Tyler, that we were able to get two drivers of this caliber to help us continue to compete and chase the All-Star Circuit of Champions championship while Tyler makes a full recovery from his injuries. Tyler has not been given a timetable for his return, but he did, I gotta flip the page here, announce on social media that he had upcoming appointments that would give him a better idea on when he would be able to return to racing. So, thoughts and prayers, shout out.
Shout out, Sunshine. Thoughts and prayers for sure.
Praise for a speedy recovery.
Yeah. I did check his Twitter today to see if there was any update since the last time he posted, and there wasn't one. So hopefully he'll be able to make his return soon. Moving on to another big race of the year, the 57th annual Red Bud 400. Cole Butcher scored his first ACA Series win at Anderson Speedway. Butcher, whose team made the decision to run the first 220 laps on the same tires, would ultimately give them the best strategy to win this year's race. The team had changed left side tires at the stage break and then waited for the second stage break at lap 280 to take right side tires. Once the field went back to racing, Gia Ruggiero briefly held the top spot after passing Ty Majeski on lap 289. However, on lap 303, Butcher made a pass on Ruggiero, maintaining the lead to the end. Ruggiero crossed line second, followed by Ty Majeski, who had dominated the first 2 stages of the race. 2021 Red Bud 400 winner Kyle Crump crossed line third, followed by 2016 Red Bud 400 winner Dalton Armstrong. Stephen Nassy, Billy Van Meter, Austin Nason, Blake Rowe, and Chase Berta rounded out the top 10. The ACA Stars National Tour will be back in action on August 1st in Wisconsin. You'll be able to catch all the action on Racing America.
I will say this race seemed a little backwards than normal. It was a good race, don't get me wrong. There wasn't any wrecks, hardly. Yeah. Most of the cars stayed out. It was good racing. However, I felt like when it came down to most long races like this, where the last 175, 50 laps, people tend to get very aggressive, make moves that they're not going to make early in the race just because it's a long race. They want to be there at the end. And I felt like in this race, a lot of the aggressive moves seemed to be made early on in the race, and then the last bit of the race was rather calm.
Yeah.
But I know I talked to you about Ty Majeski. He dominated the first portion of the race, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it sucks. That is not an ideal situation. I would rather be hanging around the top 5, but I wouldn't want to be absolutely demolishing everybody because, one, either you're showing everybody what you got early on, and everybody's like, okay, well, I'm saving. I'm gonna beat you at the end.
Right.
Or people can make small adjustments, and I don't know what that looks like on a late model. I don't know what kind of adjustments they can and can't make in the series of a short pit stop like they have. But it proved to be a downfall of his. He ended up getting past and finished third after dominating a large portion of the race. So it's like, did he show his cards early? And was it intentional? Was he just out there driving around and not realizing what he was doing? Or
it is interesting because, this was his first race at Anderson. And he did dominate majority of the race. My initial thought when you were talking was maybe, his car didn't have the long run capabilities, but it did. He dominated the first 2 stages. and then it just fell off pretty quick after they went back racing. So it is interesting to see. It would be interesting to know what went wrong. The handling obviously just went away, but could they have done something different to maybe prevent that from happening? Because I agree with you. I would not want to be leading this race early on.
I mean, you see it in NASCAR too, where a guy's up front and he's just absolutely dominating everybody. He's like, car's good, don't change anything, put tires on it, let's go. And then you come around to the last stage and everybody's pulling him because everybody else has been making these adjustments on their car and making it better, whereas he felt like his car was good because it was early on, and everybody just caught up to him.
Yeah. It would have been interesting to maybe talk to AJ about what the strategy is at Redbud. Go back 44 episodes ago when we talked to him about Winchester. Obviously, the strategy is going to be different there. So it would have been nice to maybe ask him, what would your strategy have been? And do you have an idea why Ty Majeski fell off there at the end? Or what would you have done differently if you were leading that team? But yeah, I don't know.
Because it's not a driver skill thing. Ty Majeski can wheel a late model. It's very obvious.
Especially being his first time at Anderson.
Right.
So I definitely don't think it was a driver error or anything like that. It's just, I guess it's just part of racing, but obviously, they make not the drivers per se, but these teams make their decisions. They create strategies that they think is going to win them the race.
I personally think that's one of the toughest things about racing is the strategy.
Yeah.
Because if one thing screws up, the whole plan's exploded, potentially, right?
Yeah.
So, when we're going to get to where we talk about NASCAR at Pocono, right? Well, you have a lot of guys who, you thought maybe their day ended early, but because of strategy, they change plans or stick to their original game plan, put them in positions to be there at the end when they were in the wall early on in the race. Kyle Larson, for example.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's also interesting to see, what were you seeing at the beginning of the race that made you think that, you guys, what led to the strategy of staying out, dominating the field most of the race, and then, what went wrong?
I would like to talk to, a crew chief. How often does strategy change during the race?
Yeah.
Okay, you start with your initial plan. How far off the initial plan do you get? Or, how much does it change from start to finish?
Yeah, I agree. And it's also I'm sure they have multiple strategies that they're working with. But I do agree. I think it'd be interesting to see, what's the diversion from one strategy to the next? Or, are you pulling things from different strategies to try to come up with the race-winning strategy at the end of the race? That's something we need to look into. See if we can find a crew chief.
No, I agree. Is it essentially a strategy soup, I guess? You're just pulling random bits out of it to put something together.
Right.
And I want to know what goes into forming the game plan prior to the race day, right?
And that's kind of what I was wanting to add to. It's I know Ty Majeski's never raced at Anderson. I don't know if any of his team members have ever been to Anderson, but it's what prep did you take to prepare for that race weekend? I agree with that too.
I mean, obviously, you got to assume crew chiefs are smart. They can set up a car for a track they've never been to. I'm sure they know people share data, info, all that stuff. So you can get a good idea there. You can get a ballpark idea there, I should say. But it's just what scenarios do they go over prior to the race? Hey, and then, okay, you go out, you show up to practice qualifying. Does it instantly start changing right there based off of how the car's performing? Or do you, I'm sure there's situations where it's okay, we're where we thought we would be, we can stick to the game plan. But I'm sure there's times where okay, we're not even close to the ballpark. We need to change this, change the strategy. Here's what we're going to do now. And I think it's very impressive for these crew chiefs to be able to think on the fly like they do. It blows my mind.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. But that's all I have to add. I do think we need to try to find a crew chief maybe, and maybe even a crew chief from different disciplines of racing, and be how do you prepare for a race? How do you strategize? What are you thinking about?
And I want to know at a super late model level, how much does the driver dictate that, right? Does the driver say, well, I want to do this, we're doing this?
Well, I will say in Cole Butcher's case, hearing his post race and stuff like that, reading articles, it seemed like he had a lot of trust in his crew chief to make that decision for him. So I agree. I think that'd be an interesting aspect too, is, how much say does the driver have, or how does that partnership look? How does the driver trust in the crew chief and vice versa? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all very interesting.
Absolutely. Moving on.
Yeah. I'll take this one because I don't know why I've dogged on Formula One. I fell asleep during this race. I'm going to be honest. I didn't watch it. It was like 9 a.m. I was tired, but I'm slowly getting into Formula One. I'm not 100% there yet, but I do enjoy following a lot of these drivers, like on their social media. But so Dutchman Max Verstappen scored his 9th victory of the season on Sunday, the 12th straight win for Red Bull in Hungary. 33 seconds over second place Lando Norris.
That is my biggest problem with F1. That right there.
Yeah, I agree. Sergio Perez grabbed the last podium finish over Lewis Hamilton and Oscar Piastri. Drivers and teams will travel to Belgium for round 13 of this year's F1 World Championship schedule. Verstappen currently leads Sergio Perez. Verstappen currently sits with 281 points. Sergio Perez has 171 points, which is almost a 100-point difference. He leads him by 110 points. Fernando Alonso has 139 points. Lewis Hamilton has 133 points, and George Russell has 90 points. If you are a Formula One fan and you watch on telly, you'll be able to catch all the action from Belgium on ESPN with coverage beginning at 9 a.m.
So, I said, my biggest problem is the 33 seconds, which is insane. I turned the race on when it started. I was sitting on the couch with Shalina. I said, is Verstappen in first? Green flag drops. Sure enough. I waved to the TV. I said, he's going to win the thing. Yep. I said, by like 45 seconds. And as the race goes on, we were like 15 laps into it. And in a matter of 3 laps, he went from like a 1-second lead to a 6-second lead. I'm like, this is outrageous. Mm-hmm. That is the only problem I had. There was still good racing throughout the field. There was very good racing throughout the field. Yeah. But when your leader is literally clocked out from everybody, he's had his victory lane celebration. He's got the car loaded up in the hauler. He's on a jet back to his house. And you guys are still racing because he had such a big lead. It's outrageous.
No, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it was Max. He was leading the race by a very large margin, like 40 seconds, one race. And he made the decision against his crew chief to pit for new tires because he wanted to beat the track record or get the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, literally.
He pit, got tires, and got the fastest lap of the race and still won by like a margin of 20 seconds
The
or
dude
more.
has big enough leads. He could get out of the car, go take a piss, and come back and still be in the lead.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's a really good driver, but I think that's the thing about Formula One that I don't like. Now, the Drive to Survive series makes it more tense, I think, than what the racing really is at times. I don't find joy in watching a race where the leader has a hour lead time over the rest of the field and everyone else is kind of just like whatever.
I don't want anyone to think I'm hating on Max. I'm not. Max is a wheelman. Absolutely. He's proven it.
I stand Max.
Right. I do too. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
If you come to NASCAR and you watch, we'll say, freaking anybody, I'm going to throw Ross Chastain out there. If Ross Chastain won 9 straight races by 30 seconds plus, everybody would be like, this sucks.
Mm-hmm. It's just different to me. I don't get it. Yeah, I don't know. Lando Norris also broke Max's trophy.
Really?
So they had the trophies on the podium, and they were doing their champagne, and Lando slammed it on the podium, and the trophy fell over and broke. And these trophies take a lot of time to make. I think it was like 6 months. They're 60,000 pounds. I don't know what that translates to in U.S. dollars, but that's how much it was damaged. I think it was worth more than that, but 60,000 pounds in damages. I recently followed Lando on social media, and he's just a really cool kid. So like
He's got a good social media presence.
yes, and I think that nothing against NASCAR drivers, but like not many of them have personalities outside the racetrack. You know what I mean? It's just like
I will say, I think Denny is, as much as I don't like Denny Hamlin,
yeah,
he seems to have one of the better social media presences
Yeah.
where he's posting, interacting with people, whether it's shit talking or not. But
yeah, I agree. Whereas like Lando, for example, is always on social media. He's just a cool guy. But yeah, so trying to get an F1, but it's just like it's going to take a lot to get me there because I don't want to watch.
it's pretty bad when the start is the best part of the race because everybody's trying to take off at the same time.
Right.
No, but like I said, there was still good aggressive racing throughout. I think my biggest appreciation for F1 comes from the engineering side, right?
Yeah.
All the mechanical, like everything in the design and like how each team's slightly different. But I think I have a better appreciation for F1 on that side than I do, say, NASCAR.
Right.
But I enjoy NASCAR more.
Right. I think the racing is better. Mm-hmm. I don't know, though. I was also asleep when this was happening. I watched the start and passed out.
I would love to see an F1 car go around a track once just to say I've seen it because I saw a video, and I don't know if it was sped up or not, but it was comparing like Formula 3 to Formula 2 to Formula 1, and the difference was insane.
Yeah.
And I was like, now I'm sure it's very drastic, but I couldn't tell if the video was sped up or if that's really how it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it was cool. I was watching with Shalina, and they pull up like their speed and stuff while they're going around the racetrack. I'm like, can you imagine taking some of these corners at 100+ miles an hour and your car sticks?
Yeah. Now, as I've said, Max got his 9th win of the season. And the one cool thing about, I mean, granted, they can't do that in NASCAR because it'd be the national anthem every time, our national anthem. But in Formula 1, they play the national anthem of the winning driver. And somebody made the Dutch national anthem with the
Yes, with the sound of his car.
I just want to... Okay. I just think that's really funny. That's all I had to add. But I saw that today on my lunch break. I thought
someone took
I
a
laughed.
lot of time out of their day to make that. A lot of time.
That's my favorite part of the race is hearing that national anthem. I think it's a cool one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just funny. But anyway, I have nothing else to add to that. I just wanted to throw it in there because I know I'm sure... Well, I don't know. Maybe we have some F1 fans that tune in. So I want to diversify the show a little bit.
I really do want to interview an F1 fan and just be like, what about it brings you to the sport?
So have you ever seen those like YouTube videos where they like convince me I'm wrong?
Yeah.
We should do a video where we try to have an F1 fan convince us to be fans.
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool. And then we could do like a NASCAR fan tries to convince so-and-so to be a fan. That would be kind of cool.
Right.
Don't take my ideas.
We need to have someone convince Chance that push starting cars is not efficient.
Oh my God. Was it last episode I said something about... Was it last? Yeah, I think it was, where I was like, where's the push cars? And I was just kidding, Chance. But, yeah, that's all I have to add about that. This next topic is kind of interesting because I forgot to add a moment from this race, but I want to talk about it with you, so
All right.
I'll let you take it on.
Okay, so we're going to the ARCA race results from the Tricky Triangle, Pocono. The ARCA Menard Series was back in action on Saturday, where Jesse Love scored his 5th win of the season over Connor Mozak. Andres Perez, Dean Thompson, and Connor Jones closed out the top 5. Tony Breidinger finished 6th, followed by Andy Jankowat. I don't know. Sorry for butchering your name. My apologies. Cody Coughlin.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
What?
Yeah.
Christian Rose and Jake Finch. Frankie Muniz suffered mechanical issues, resulting in a P21 finish. During his post-race interview, Muniz spoke about losing the 2nd spot in point standings. Despite his poor finish, Muniz sits 5 points behind Perez. Christian Rose with 429, John Garrett with 387, AJ Moyer with 347, Tony Breidinger with 341, Brad Smith 331, Tony Constantino with 276, and Jack Wood with 255 round out your top 10 in point standings. Series will be back in action on August 4th at Michigan International Speedway.
Did you see the clip of the car that had got spun around
About killed somebody
and didn't hold the brake and just kind of let it? Oh, did you see
yes,
it?
I saw it.
Oh my God! What are we doing?
What are we doing? Literally, when you're already wrecked and you're still the problem, we call it the term arca brake. It was nuts. I watched that video and I even kind of clenched up for a second. I was like, oh, this is bad. It reminded me of the super late model at Bristol that we watched.
Yeah.
Granted, it wasn't the same situation where it wasn't because the car was rolling. It was because the guy didn't have a spotter at Bristol and you can't see anything. But it reminded me of the same thing.
Yeah. I was blown away. I was like, "What are we doing?" And then you hear Dale Jr. and you just know he's like, "What are we doing?" Yeah, it was just crazy, Kyle Busch was able to take the Craftsman Truck Series win from Corey Heim, who dominated the race after leading 27 of the 60 laps after a last lap pass. This win also marked 100 wins for KBM, Kyle Busch Motorsports. Taylor Gray, Christopher Bell, and Grant Enfinger closed out the top 5. Ty Majeski, Christian Eckes, Dean Thompson, Ben Rhodes, and Matty D rounded out the top 10. Following Pocono, here's a look at the Craftsman Truck Series playoff standings. Those locked in on a win include Corey Heim, Zane Smith, Grant Enfinger, Ben Rhodes, Christian Eckes, and Carson Hocevar. Ty Majeski, Nick Sanchez, Matty D, and Matt Crafton find themselves above the cutoff line. Stuart Friesen currently sits 9 points below the cutoff line. Tanner Gray finds himself below 47. Chase Purdy is below by 54 points. Tyler Ankrum is below by 71 points. And Jake Garcia is down 94 points from the cutoff. Drivers have just, one more race?
Is it one more?
I think Richmond is their last chance to get into the playoffs in the Truck Series. That sounds about right. Because August 11th, they'll be coming to Indianapolis. And that'll be round 1 of playoffs.
I forgot.
Yeah. So, Stuart Friesen, I mean, any of these guys, I don't. It's interesting how tight it is.
It's really pretty close. I mean, obviously Stuart Friesen's got a little bit of an upper hand on these
Has
guys.
the best chance,
yeah,
I would say.
But
yeah.
I think, honestly, any of these guys could pull one off.
Yeah.
And really throw a wrench into things.
Or
honestly.
it could be somebody where you didn't even highlight.
That's true. It really could.
Haley Deegan gets her first win. That'd be interesting.
That'd be very interesting. The world would end.
Yeah.
I think. But no. I forgot that it was this close to the playoffs for the trucks already.
Yeah. Exciting.
Moving on to Xfinity, unless you have anything else to say about trucks.
Nope.
Austin Hill scored the win over the weekend, followed by Sam Mayer, Chase Elliott, Riley Herbst, and Daniel Hemrick. Sammy Smith, Brandon Jones, Brett Moffitt, Parker Klingerman, and Daniel Suarez close out the top 10. And here are the point standings after Pocono. Drivers locked in on a win, I believe, are John Hunter Nemechek, Austin Hill, Justin Allgaier, Cole Custer, Chandler Smith, Sammy Smith, and Jeb Burton. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We also have above the cutoff line, Josh Berry, Daniel Hemrick, Sam Mayer, Sheldon Creed, and Riley Herbst. Just below the cutoff line, we have Parker Klingerman, down 26, Brett Moffitt, down 49, Brandon Jones, down 54, and Kaz Gralla with a close to the cutoff line, down 141 points.
He has a chance. I'm rooting for him.
I think the Xfinity Series is weird, like the way this is set up, right? So your core drivers, it's very obvious who the core drivers are, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And there's they're all really close. I know 54 points is kind of a lot, but
anything's possible.
Anything is
possible.
And
they got more time than the Truck Series, so they have still a handful of races where somebody can pull an upset.
And for example, we know Brandon Jones can win. He's not had a great season.
Yeah.
But this is also his first season with JRM.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's a proven winner, not in this car.
Right.
Which a lot of people are throwing some concerns about, I will say. Some people are like, hey, we got to talk about this because he should be winning a lot more. But that's neither here nor there. Parker Klingerman, great driver. Especially we got some... do the trucks have any road courses coming up?
Yeah, we're going to Road America.
Okay, there
at
you
some
go.
point.
Parker's a great road course driver.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's got opportunities in front of him to really upset the playoff standings, I think.
The Cup Series closed out the weekend in Pocono, but not without drama among drivers. Denny Hamlin, who scored his 50th career victory, made contact with Kyle Larson in the closing laps, which resulted in a P20 finish for Larson. The fans at Pocono made it clear that they did not appreciate the way Hamlin drove Larson. Many also took to social media to call out Hamlin for his view on the incident. Austin Dillon was another driver who was involved in drama with Tyler Reddick after contact was made between the two. After exiting his car, Dillon made his way up the track, throwing his helmet at Reddick. Despite the replays of the incident, Dillon remained adamant that Reddick moved up on him, resulting in his wreck. Tyler Reddick went on to finish second, followed by Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick, and Ty Gibbs. Christopher Bell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Harrison Burton, Eric Jones, and Chase Elliott rounded out the top 10. As we get closer to this year's playoffs, focus has been on Chase Elliott, who has found himself in a must-win situation. The Craftsman Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series. This is where I messed up. So the Truck Series and the Cup Series will make their way to Richmond. The Xfinity Series will make their way to Road America. The Truck and Xfinity Series are set to race on Saturday. Xfinity coverage will begin at 3 p.m. on NBC, followed by truck coverage on FS1 at 7:30. The Cup Series will hit the track on Sunday with coverage beginning at 3 p.m. on USA. Looking at the playoff standings following Pocono, those drivers locked in include Martin Truex Jr., William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, Ross Chastain, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Those not in on a win but in on points currently are Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, and Michael McDowell. AJ Allmendinger finds himself below the cutoff by 17 points, followed by Daniel Suarez with 23 points behind. Ty Gibbs is down 28 points. Alex Bowman is down 46 points. And Chase Elliott finds himself 56 points below the cutoff line. Let's see. Joey Logano had beef with track workers.
Did you listen to the video of him?
I did.
Hey, dude, it was hilarious. Excuse my language here, but at the end of the video, he's sitting here screaming at the track crew. He's like, hook the fucking thing up, like, put the effing car on it, like, and then he's yelling at him. At the end, he said, God, you stupid sons of bitch.
I think pissed was an understatement. What else? Obviously, the drama between Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson.
Okay. Actions hypocritical?
Yes.
I saw this tweet. That's why I had to say it, because I like the tweet. But also, still have no idea. I'm with Dale Jr. here. Have no idea how Denny doesn't think they touched.
Here's my thing on this, because I know you wanted my opinion. Here's my thought on it after thinking about it all day. Denny is a hypocrite, okay? But to protect myself from sounding like a hypocrite, I understand drivers are going to do what they have to do to win. I get that 100%.
Larson's done it before.
Larson has done it before. But here's the thing. Watch the replay. They made contact. Regardless if it was the slightest contact, you still drove him up the wall, in my opinion, and I think a lot of other people hold that same opinion. So it's like, just say, yeah, I did what I had to do to win that race, and it's something that he would have done, right? Post-race, Kyle Larson said, Denny's always right. He's never wrong. Larson went on to say that, I've never had to apologize for something, or
I've never had to apologize for him for something I've done on the track.
Right.
And he's had to do it to me several times.
Right. Larson did go on to the High Limit Racing podcast or whatever it may be, and basically said that, I want to start getting respect from him, so I might have to go out there. Basically saying he's going to get his respect one way or another. And so it is interesting, the different takes that came from, the media. For example, Mike Davis, tweeted that he wanted Kyle Petty's thoughts on it, and I thought,
the f*** has Kyle Petty got to do with this?
But Mike Davis really wanted to know.
But that's not what Kyle Petty said.
So Kyle Petty, post-race, did say that he did not appreciate the way that Denny drove Larson. and that it was just unfortunate.
I also think it would be less of a big deal if he didn't do the exact same thing to Ross Chastain last year.
Right.
I mean, literally the exact same thing.
And Larson, or not Larson, well, maybe Larson did, but Kyle Petty, they showed the replay of last year's race on the broadcast, and he said, it's the same exact thing. So, I don't ever see Denny apologizing. Denny's pretty adamant that they didn't make contact.
Which is very obvious they did, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's trying to blame it on air, and I get how air works, but I don't think air just makes a car automatically shift its entire direction.
Yeah. Dale Jr. had a thought on it. Dale was pretty much in the middle, I think, where he was like, yeah, Larson and Hamlin made contact, but, he did what he had to do to win, which I respect that. I get it. Drivers will do whatever it takes to win, but at least own up to it, I guess. You know what I mean?
It's as simple as saying, well, he has the option to lift or, and race it out or keep the gas to the floor and hit the wall. No.
But I think as far as high up as he drove him, I don't think that would have been an option for Larson.
No, Larson lifts. Everybody just bulldozes past him, and he finishes probably still 21st like he did.
Yeah.
But I think, if you could just sit here and say instead of, well, he had the option, both drivers, I didn't wreck either of them. Both, they wrecked themselves or whatever.
Yeah.
Just say, I did what I had to do to win.
Simple as that.
It is that simple. Yeah, you might catch some heat for it, but geez.
Yeah.
At least you acknowledge, hey, what I did probably wasn't right, but I did what I had to do to win the race.
Yeah, and it's that simple. Just like Dylan, going back to Austin for a second, found himself in a very similar situation where he thought Tyler Reddick came up the track. Replay shows the opposite, shows that Dylan went down, and it resulted in him wrecking. And he was very adamant that Tyler Reddick was the one that caused that wreck.
I also witnessed one of the worst helmet throws I've ever seen in my life. And I'll tell you what, right now, if I was paying as much as some of these guys do for their custom helmets, I sure as hell ain't throwing it.
Right. Yeah. So it's just interesting. I don't know if I could watch a replay. Broadcast is saying, this, I'm wrong on this, and I go up to a reporter and I say, no, that's not how I remember it. This is what happened. When the replay is telling me I'm a liar, it's just crazy to me. And Dylan, Dylan said something about, he's just going to go out and start wrecking guys, which I'm like, okay.
He even acknowledged the fact that Junior disagreed with his opinion.
Yeah, called Junior out on broadcast. I was watching that live and I was like, whoa, the beef. I did want to ask, though, because it kind of came to my mind, a lot of people took to social media saying Larson fans are hypocrites themselves when there's been clips of Larson arguably driving people up into the fence, including Chase Elliott at one point last year. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't think he's right in doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially your teammate. There's a clip of him cutting Justin Haley off. Was that at the Coliseum?
I believe so, and it resulted in Haley hitting the inside wall.
I don't think it's okay. Yeah, he did it, and I don't think it was right, but I also don't think it's right for someone else to do it.
Right.
Like, I wasn't defending Larson for doing something like that.
Right. And I think Larson, prove me if I'm wrong, I guess, but I think Larson acknowledges his mistakes, whereas Denny goes onto a podcast and complains about other drivers racing the way they race, and then he turns around and does the same stuff. This isn't the first time that he's been called a hypocrite, so it's just it's interesting.
It is. I agree.
But that's all I have to say. Pocono, we can move on if you have nothing else.
I don't have anything. Moving on to one of my favorite tracks to ever exist, a track that I've never even been to, but I'm really good at it on iRacing. Five Flag Speedway in Pensacola, Florida. They had the doubleheader this weekend, the Twin 100s. Let's see, prior to the race weekend, it was announced that Travis Braden would be joining Jet Motorsports. Shout out to Travis. It was good to see him back behind the wheel. Good to see him and Jess at the track. There's a picture.
And I did maybe shred a tear or two. It was just a
bittersweet moment for sure.
Yes.
So happy to see them back at the track doing their thing. At the conclusion of night one, William Byron had crossed the line first, followed by Jeremy Doss, Giovanni Ruggiero, Jackson Boone, Hunter Robbins, and William Sawalich. Stephen Nasse, Jet Nolan, Travis Braden, Billy Van Meter, and Tony Elrod made up the top 10. However, following post-race inspection, William Byron was disqualified and Jeremy Doss was awarded the win. Track officials stated that they had discovered panning beneath the fuel cell, which was not in compliance with the rules. While team owner Anthony Campy said these adjustments were for safety reasons, the rules were put in place to put an end to teams sealing the underbodies, which could theoretically create a de facto rear diffuser for added downforce. At the conclusion on night number 2, Giovanni Ruggiero, Matt Craig, Jet Nolan, and Michael Hind, Bubba Pollard, Stephen Nasse, Billy Van Meter, Jake Finch, Tony Elrod, and Jeremy Doss finished in the top 10. Super Late Models will be back in action on September 22nd for the Blizzard 100, one of the last races before the 56th running of the Snowball Derby.
Shout out to Matt Weaver for that quote, theoretically created de facto rear diffuser for added downforce. I did some research, and I love using Matt as a reference because I knew we had talked about this on Saturday. Was it? Yeah, Saturday. And, you had mentioned that it was a safety issue, that's why the team had ran this car the way it was. Reading Matt Weaver's article on Short Track Scene, a lot of drivers in the garage, a lot of teams in the garage said that the team was aware that this was not in compliance with the rules, and they chose to run it anyway. It is interesting to hear, though, that, obviously teams are going to do what they can to find advantages. But it is interesting to kind of find out. I was not aware of this, that, these things could potentially give you more. Obviously, I guess, now thinking about it, but it's interesting to see what teams try to do to find downforce.
It goes back to, was it last year? On whose car was it? It was a piece of tape on the nose.
Yeah.
A piece of tape.
It's just crazy, the things that you can do. That, if you're not actively involved in that kind of situation where it's you're the one working on a team, for example, you're not going to really know what these teams do. It's just crazy.
There's always loopholes.
Yeah.
And people will find them or die trying.
Yep.
But yeah, I watched Friday night.
Yeah.
I didn't watch Saturday night because we were at the track.
Yep. I didn't get to watch either. I wanted to watch Friday, but I was tired and passed out.
I do want to say, though, going back to Mount Lawn Saturday, the racing was very clean for the majority.
Shockingly.
Yeah. My race went green to checkered.
I think all of them did except for, maybe I think the modifieds went green to checkered. My race, they had 2 cautions, 2 or 3.
The Pro Compacts had a caution.
Yeah.
So, the night went by very fast.
Yeah. We'll be back in action, 2 weeks from now?
August 5th for the Raintree 100.
Exciting. Biggest race of the year by far, so excited
also,
for that one.
Quick shout out, Brent Butler. Go buy his shirts. They look really nice.
Yes, I will post that on, I think I did, but if you are listening, please go support Brent and buy his shirt. They look really cool. I got to order mine tonight, but I'll be hopefully having one soon.
Before we move on to this last topic here, I want to mention something that I just read before we came out here.
Yeah.
A Crown Vic race in Florida.
Yeah.
So, okay, Crown Vic racing is obviously very up and coming. It's very popular now around the U.S., growing rapidly.
Yes.
But I know, our races nightly, $250 to the winner. Now we have a couple big races that pay maybe $1,000 or $2,000 to win, which is good. That's a significant amount of money for a Crown Vic racer, right? Well, there is a Crown Vic race being hosted, what did it say, November, I think, in Florida. It is a 200-lap race around a 3/8 mile oval that pays $10,000 to win.
I might find me a Crown Vic just to run this race.
$10,000 to win a Crown Vic race, and I cannot wait to see what kind of crowd that brings, and I hope to God there's a broadcast somewhere that we can watch this race.
For sure. I agree. I think it was Bradley. Shout out Bradley, who took to social media recently and said that there needs to be a traveling Crown Vic series.
Yeah, it was with Winchester, Salem, and...
Which I agree 100%.
we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
How I would love if the Crown Vics had a mirror image of a Vors compact touring series, but with Crown Vics. I think it would be awesome.
And I agree. You know, what was it? Crown Vics have been around locally. What is it, like 2-3 years at most?
Three, 4 maybe. I don't know. 4 might be a bit of a stretch, but
I mean, they've blown up.
But if it tells you
very
anything,
recently.
like when everything kind of first started, people were selling Crown Vics,
Yeah.
race ready Crown Vics at that for like $1,500, $2,000. In the last week, I've seen 2 cars for sale. One of them was for $8,000. The other was for $7,000.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, like it seems outrageous, but you know, according to the post, these cars are fast. They're winners. So I mean, that's not an unreasonable price for a fast car in this class that's growing as fast as it is. It
Yep.
sucks because that's not something I can afford, right? But
I certainly can't. But I know, not to cut you off,
No, you're
but
good.
like when Mount Long got rid of the Thunder cars, I was one of the first ones to say that the Crown Vics would become the new Thunder cars, and I still believe that. And you know, I'm going to pat Cletus on the back for this because I think maybe he had a play in this. Because I mean,
do know he has a role in stealing all these damn Crown Vics that people want to buy.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like
I have a point to make after this. I'll let you
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I think Cletus had a part in Crown Vic racing.
We have to make a trip to the Freedom Factory.
Agreed.
Cletus McFarland is setting up a driving experience to run Crown Vics at the Freedom Factory.
I agree.
And he said he wanted to eventually set something up to where when they go to the Cletus and Cars events that they bring the driving experience with them to let people drive Crown Vics at the various tracks that they go to.
Which I think would be amazing.
Awesome.
Cletus, shout out to him because, you know, I almost went to Cletus and Cars in Indy when he came to IRP. He's got it locked in on like these Cletus and Cars shows. Like he obviously knows what he's doing. He puts on a great product. When we were talking about what we were talking about in the living room before we came out, I was going to say that like at some point, I think it was when you brought up the $10,000 Crown Vic race. I said, you know, or I was going to say, I wanted to say that it would be nice to go down there for one of his races and try to compete.
Right.
I think it'd be cool.
But the problem is you can't just take one of our basic rule, like
Right.
Crown Vics, because they put spoilers and nitrous in them. And
Yeah, our car would be equivalent to us going to a NASCAR race and saying we want to race.
yeah, really.
Herbie. But yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'll get into the last topic here. 2023 Indiana Sprint Week. The 2023 Indiana Sprint Week kicked off at Gas City I-69 Speedway, where Justin Grant scored the win, followed by Robert Below, Brady Bacon, Mitchell Moles, and Kevin Thomas Jr. The series then made their way to Kokomo, where C.J. Leary grabbed the win, followed by Brady Bacon, Carson Garrett, Emerson Axum, and Logan Seavey. The series then competed at Lawrenceburg, where Justin Grant scored his second win of the week, followed by Jake Swanson, Brady Bacon, Kevin Thomas Jr., and Dason Pursley. Biggest moment of the night came as Alex Bright and Jake Swanson made contact, resulting in Bright violently flipping down the front stretch. Bright was removed from the car and placed on a stretcher before being taken to a local hospital for further evaluation. Bright has since been released from the hospital and took to social media to announce that he suffered lung contusions and a broken wrist.
I'm going to cut you off for a second. If this is the video I saw, I did not think that car was ever going to stop rolling.
I didn't see video, but that's what a lot of people said on social media. I did see that.
It continuously flipped and flipped and flipped and flipped, and you were like, dear God, please stop.
Yeah. And I know, I can't think of her first name. Kevin Swindell, his girl, went on Twitter and said that, you know, she might be done with this track. It's a very unforgiving track. Obviously, we had the tragedy earlier this year at Lawrenceburg. It's a scary track, in my opinion, and I applaud those who go out there and race. Did want to say, you know, our thoughts and prayers are with Alex Bright as he recovers. With that being said, the series race at Circle City Raceway last night, where Kyle Cummins grabbed the win over Logan Seavey, Shane Cottle, Emerson Axum, and Xavier Doney Rounding out the top 5, drivers and teams have the night off before heading down to Terre Haute, followed by Lincoln Park, Bloomington, and Tri-State Speedway, closing out Indiana Sprint Week on Saturday. Following last night's race, here's a look at the 2023 Indiana Sprint Week point standings. Justin Grant currently holds the lead with 259 points. Brady Bacon and him are tied. Emerson Axum is in third with 249 points. Robert Ballou is in fourth, right?
Yep.
Third with 230 points. Kevin Thomas Jr. sits fourth with 220 points. Kyle Cummins sits in fifth with 205 points. CJ Leary very close behind with 204 points. Shane Cottle, goodness, is actually tied with CJ Leary with 204 points. Logan CV with 202 points. And Carson Garrett with 195 points.
I love Indiana Sprint Week, and unfortunately, I haven't watched anything this week.
I just got to watch Circle City. They also have the UMP modifieds there. Definitely enjoyed the sprint cars better, but shout out to my UMP guys. Don't remember who won that race, sorry. But, yeah.
We're in the midst of race season. In the middle. In the heat of it. In the thick of it.
Into the thick of it.
Yeah.
We are.
It's really becoming crunch time for a lot of guys who are who are chasing a championship. We're closing in on Winchester very quickly.
Which I hate because I'm excited, very excited, but I know once Sunday comes around, it's over, and then we have to wait another year.
Yeah. I mean, it's already almost August.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's so crazy.
Yeah. I think this year, not to spring this on you, but I think after Winchester, racing starts slowing down. We have a few big races at the end of the year. Snowball Derby, St. Louis.
400.
All-American 400, Gateway Dirt Nationals, and then...
That's really...
And then January rolls around. Did I say Snowball? Sure.
Yeah.
January rolls around, we have Chili Bowl. But I think at some point, maybe this year, we slow down on podcast stuff and take the time to plan out next year.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes we're really wanting to make. We've talked about...
Briefly, but yes.
Kind of reorganizing stuff. You know, we're wanting to kind of introduce... I hope you don't mind me sharing this.
No, go ahead.
We're wanting to kind of introduce segments into the show that'll allow us to be a little more organized. Add some variety, I'm hoping. You know, maybe we venture off a little bit from racing and just... Not anything like too major, just... Hey, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're just going to try and get creative with it. Just add something different. You know, we're going to obviously stick to racing content as a majority here. That's what our podcast is for.
Right.
But we're also going to take some time to really work on our cars, I think, this winter as well.
Yep.
Yours especially. I think your car... may have a bright, or maybe not your car. Maybe we get you a new one. I know. Yeah. Off mic.
It's complicated, but yes, that's the other thing too. You know, working on our cars. Would love to get some partnerships going, so that we could afford to grow and do some of the things that we want to do. Definitely would love to incorporate guests more. You know, our countdown to Winchester, for example, was a pretty big hit, shockingly.
For the last minute.
For very last minute, like the 11th hour. But doing that more, maybe get some more guests more frequently on the podcast. What else? Cleaning things up a bit, making ourselves more maybe attractable to those that might not watch already. Grow our social media presence. I mean, just the things that you would typically do in content creation. So if you are listening this far ahead and you have some feedback or criticisms, let us know. You know, obviously you guys are the ones listening, so tell us what we could do better. Please.
Really. Yeah, content creation is very difficult, and I don't think you really realize it until you get into it, and it's like, it's not as simple as it seems.
Agreed 100%, because I've wanted to be a content creator for quite a few years, and I was one of those people that thought, I'll just get podcast equipment, or I'll grab a camera and make some videos, and I'll be set. It's a lot harder than you think, especially for what we do. Show notes is time-consuming. Editing with the setup I have right now is time-consuming and very complicated. So hopefully 2024 is our year. We're able to do some bigger and better stuff, and what have you. But a lot of conversations upcoming, I'm sure. So like I said, once racing starts slowing down, we could maybe have some episodes covering the bigger races at the end of the year, but take that time to talk some things out, grow.
And we'll try to provide updates, as we can.
Yeah.
Maybe not episode worthy, because we don't want to sit here and bore you for an hour over, little details that we've been working on, but maybe just social media updates. Hey, this is what we're doing. I think it might be for a good benefit for us to even maybe put out some surveys, if you will, get some feedback from our viewers, followers, whatnot. What would you like to see more of? What do you think we do well? What do you think we don't do well?
Right.
Just suggestions.
Yeah.
Maybe even if we're introducing segments, what are some segment ideas? What would be a good segment idea?
Yeah, I agree. It'll be nice to hear what people have to say, because like I said, you guys are the ones listening to it. I listen back to the episode when I'm editing, and after that, I don't look at it again. So I do appreciate you all listening if you do, but it'd be nice to get your feedback, because it's a little bit complicated to figure out what we can do differently, what we could change, what we need to keep. Because I really don't want to change things if it's working for everybody else. But I'm going to be honest. I've been at the point where I kind of just want to. I told Jarrett, maybe we should tear it all down and rebuild. I don't know if we need to be that extreme with it, but things got to change. I will say that. I agree with that 100%. So,
and it's like, you, as much as we don't necessarily, we want to treat this like a business, but we also want to have fun. A business doesn't work if you're providing goods and services that people don't want.
Right.
So if we're producing content that people couldn't care any less about,
right,
what are we doing?
Right. We're talking into microphones for no reason. I'm very passionate about this. I think that
I try to think, but nothing happens.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of potential. It's just we gotta figure it out. Figure it out. So, I think 2024. Hopefully, we can hit the ground running and better ourselves, better the show, what have you. But
we'll get there.
Yeah, I agree. But that's all I have for this episode. If you have anything else to add, or you would like to add,
that's all I have as well. Good to be back in the studio again, off of a rather decent weekend at the racetrack for all three of us for DJG Motorsports. Hoping that gives us some good momentum moving forward. Hoping we kind of all get some things figured out and we all just continue to get better. So we'll keep bringing you content as we get information to do so. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you when we come back.